I genuinely cannot believe what I have just witnessed. Tottenham Hotspurs have done the most Spursy thing and bottled a 2-0 lead against a Manchester City side who didn't even look that great. The second half looked like a training session, and honestly, I think that second half performance was one of Tottenham's worst performances in recent years. And the reason why I feel that way, despite what we saw in the North London derby, is because they were actually 2-0 up. It was harder to lose that game than it was to win that game. Like, somehow Tottenham Hotspurs conceded 3 goals in rapid succession and then just completely fell apart. They completely capitulated and they completely bent over and let Manchester City basically violate them and do whatever it is they felt like doing to them. It was genuinely abysmal and shambolic. And look, I'm not the type of person who just blindly blames managers. At the end of the day, players have to take personal responsibility for their own individual performances and individual errors. But you cannot tell me that Antonio Conte is not to blame for the result today, because his substitutions were absolutely abysmal. First half, Tottenham were okay. They played pretty well and they did pretty damn well to get themselves 2-0 up against Manchester City. But then they went down. 3-2. What do you do as a manager? You're supposed to try to get back into the game. You're supposed to be brave. You're supposed to be courageous. You aren't supposed to just bend over and try to do damage control. But Conte essentially just tried to do damage control. He brings on Longley. He then brings on Basuma, who, by the way, is a defensive substitution. And then he brings on another defender. I forget who it is, but I think he took off Eric Dyer and brought on another centre-back, which just simply isn't good enough. He took so long to bring Richarlison on. Son wasn't having a great game. Harry Kane wasn't having a great game. You've got to have the courage in those moments to make the attacking changes and say, we're still in this game. Let's actually try and go and win it. Instead of, let's just shut up shop and try to do some damage limitation. And we've seen this far too often from Antonio Conte this season, where he's favoured pragmatism over just being a little bit more brave. And I just think it's an absolute disgrace. Now, you can talk about Daniel Levy. You can talk about the long-term issues at Tottenham Hotspurs, and we all know what they are. We saw them under Jose. We saw them under Nuno, and we saw them to a certain extent under Maurizio Pochettino. But for me, tonight isn't about the ownership. Tonight isn't about everything else that's going on at Tottenham Hotspurs. Those are conversations you can have in the summer. Those are conversations you can have around the appointment of the next manager. Right here, right now, there are things that Antonio Conte could have done to help influence this game positively, and he just didn't do them. And this has been an occurring theme since the end of last season, in my humble opinion. Now, he isn't the only one to blame. Hugo Lloris was absolutely culpable, and just as culpable as Conte in today's loss, if not more culpable, because I think 3 of the goals are partially his fault. The one where it comes into the near post, I believe it was the 3rd goal. I think it was Marius who scored it, but I'm not 100% sure. That was an absolute disgrace. The one where he gets beat 1-on-1 and he gets chipped, that was also an absolute disgrace. And to a certain extent, I think the first goal as well, he should be at least getting close to that. And he doesn't. Hugo Lloris has been absolutely terrible. Statistically, he's the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League when it comes to errors leading to goal. He has the most errors, direct errors leading to goal, which means he makes the most mistake. He is the most mistake-prone goalkeeper in the Premier League. That is an actual fact. That is a statistical fact. And the numbers don't lie, because everybody knows that Hugo Lloris has the bozo gene. He has those moments in him, and he's had those moments throughout his entire career. It seems to be getting worse with age. So he is just as culpable as Antonio Conte, if not more culpable than Antonio Conte, because he cost his team in the North London derby as well. He does not deserve to wear the armband for Spurs. I'm not sure if he was wearing the armband this evening, but he just does not deserve to be seen as a leader in that dressing room. In fact, he doesn't deserve to be playing for Tottenham Hotspurs, period. His contract should be terminated. He should be looking to be moved on, in my humble opinion, as a rival, as a neutral. Moving on, Harry Kane. He wasn't that great tonight as well. He just wasn't that great. And Harry Kane has had a pretty good season under the circumstances. Harry Kane continues to do Harry Kane type things, but even he can't carry Tottenham out of this rut. Even he can't fix Tottenham. Harry Kane is usually the guy who carries Spurs through these difficult periods, but even he can't do it. There's still a long time to go in the season. Things could change for Spurs, but at this point in time, it just looks like he has his sights set elsewhere. And we know he's wanted to leave Spurs for a long time now, but I think now we're starting to see it with his body language and just these types of performances. Same with Son. Son is a player who is one of my favorites. I wish Manchester United would have signed him when he was younger. In fact, I wish Manchester United would still sign him now. I know that's a crazy statement to say because he's not playing particularly well at the moment, and I know I'm coming across as an idiot right now, but I genuinely love this guy. He is one of my favorite players in world football. I love Heung-min Son, but he was disgraceful tonight. He has been one of Spurs' worst players, worst attacking players, pretty much all season long. Ever since that hat-trick that he scored against, was it Brighton or Everton? I can't remember, but one of the teams that wears blue in the Premier League, right? Like, ever since that hat-trick that he scored earlier in the season, he's been absolutely abysmal. Absolutely abysmal. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he's just not happy at Spurs at the moment. I can't remember the last time I saw him smile and actually look like a person who wants to play for the manager and for the club. He just doesn't look like he wants to be there. He seems disinterested. That's just me, though. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree. So this you can extend this throughout the entire team. But for me, this doesn't start with Antonio Conte. It's definitely a board issue. It's definitely a club issue. But Antonio Conte is in part to blame for what is going on at Tottenham Hotspurs this season, because I feel like there's things he could have done to make the situation just that little bit better. Either way, some could argue that it doesn't make much of a difference, because even if Conte did do the things that a lot of people have been crying out for, like be a little bit more expansive in his play style and give players a little bit more license to actually play attacking football, even if he did that, you could make the argument that Spurs would be kind of screwed either way, just because of the reluctance to spend from the board and the lack of ambition. And I hear that, honestly, I really do. But it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Let me know what you think. Is this the end of Antonio Conte at Spurs? Leave a like on the video if you want to support the channel. Leave a comment if you want to. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Peace.